got East to meet the members of Suspyre.
Gabe Marshall, the drummer.
April Susset, keyboards.
Sam Boot, bass. Greg Rossetti, guitar, and others. Andrew Stably, guitars. I am Clay Bart, bassing. 2001 was the first actual practice with what is some part of Suspyre now. This lineup is relatively new. 2009 version.
But it's the best lineup.
Exactly. Well, 2001 started with me and two former members just playing music I had written for actually my previous band that I did in high school, because 2001 was when I graduated high school and I just wanted to do something musically. And Suspyre really didn't start doing anything professional until about 2005. So we can fast forward a few years there. The first album, Silvery Image, was 2005, and that was when Clay joined the band and it felt real, having a real singer. 2006 was the next album, The Great Divide, and it was more or less the same lineup. That's when Andrew joined up. 2008 was when the newest album, One Time Fades, was released, and then we got April after the album was actually recorded. I don't like genre to begin with, but if you choose a certain genre, if you choose, oh, I want to play death metal, then if you sing clean, you're put in the back. You can't do that anymore, and that's considered a bad thing. But that genre, prog music, if you want to use that term, has no boundaries. I'm allowed to play saxophone, and I don't get looked down upon and shunned by fellow musicians for it. We can write songs that are 9 minutes long, and everyone's like, well, what about getting on the radio? Not the point. Our music isn't about making money and getting on the radio and all that. It's a completely different thing. It's more about the art.
What?
Yeah, really. That's what we're doing.
You lied to me!
So what's everyone's musical background? Shall I start with you?
Oh my, yeah.
First time I played an instrument was in middle school. Concert band.
Yeah. I think everybody starts that. Yeah.
How does it feel like being a member of this band?
Being a drummer, it is exhausting. As most metal drummers would say that. I'm still trying to figure out all the techniques to being consistently good, consistently fast, and importantly, consistently clean.
Do you practice to a metronome?
A lot, yes. I get pretty winded playing the music. When you're playing proper posture, keeping your back straight, actually centered on the throne. Okay. I studied with a lot of jazz guys.
Oh, you did?
And they got me doing a lot of the molar technique. Similar thing with the feet, dropping the heel. Mostly metal drummers are going to be reading or watching this, I'm assuming. Is to play other styles. Going and listening to some Parliament Funkadelic, Snoop or Dr. Dre, or something that finds that pocket. As a drummer, the most important thing is to make everything feel good.
I agree. You win.
You win.
When you play progressive music, definitely Hanon, Charity, full tempos and different keys. Start warming up again with Hanon, and then going through each of the songs, making sure all the patches are ready, making sure that I have a backup, because I have 2 USB keys with all the sequences and mixing and everything. Get yourself out there. Don't be intimidated, especially if you're a girl.
Do you find that playing brass instruments have given you a richer insight into being a bass player? In terms of transferring the musical knowledge?
It's good to understand the bigger scheme of things and where the bass fits in. I do play with the pick because there's a lot of tremolo, a lot of things that are played really quick that I can't do with my fingers, not yet at least. Lots of practice, play it very slow. He's very good about giving you the MIDI track so I can actually slow it down, half speed, play it, and then just slowly speed it up.
So when I went into college, I was a saxophone player. I played a little guitar, but no other guitar players at where I went undergrad, Muhlenberg. None of them could read music. So I got all the guitar gigs. So I kind of put the saxophone on the back burner a little bit and really got into guitar and microtonal music, which is the most esoteric field possible. It's a rock atmosphere, but the music's written classically. I send the MIDI files. All my scores are written out. Every note's written out. Every drum hit is written out. And of course, he's allowed to do what he wants with them. They're the basic idea. Learn everything about theory, even if you'll never use it. I remember in my music theory classes in college, learning all this fancy theory, and what I would write would be very conservative. It would be right. I mean, the Silvery Image stuff was more conservative, that first album. Listen to a lot of jazz music for the harmony, but listen to classical music for the phrasing and development of ideas. For playing, play slow, and always know what rhythm you're playing at all times. a lot of people tend to just start spazzing out on the guitar, and then they wonder when they're playing with the band, why are they ending before everyone else?
We were friends since freshman year of high school. Suspyre's bass player couldn't make a show, so I just thought, whatever, I'll put down the guitar, I'll pick up a bass. Playing bass for me in the band gives you a whole new side of the music. You and the drummer, carrying the beat, the backbone of the music, because you try to write a guitar riff and it's like, oh, now what does the rest of the band do? Recently, I broke my pinky at work, and
How did you do that?
I was moving a heavy piece of equipment and I got caught in something and I broke it. I practiced every day, probably 2-3 hours. And once I broke my finger, I stopped playing for like 2 weeks. And then last week, I started playing Friday again. And I can honestly say Sunday's practice was probably the best that I've played in a while.
Practice techniques that you use to keep the voice in tip-top position.
You might want to buy a car, because that's the best place to practice.
And things that you avoid doing because...
I mean, I've had a little bit of formal training, and I know the correct way to sing and things like that. Singing metal is completely different. And to tell you the truth, I don't know how to tell you to do it. Some people who want to probably shouldn't. Just practiced and practiced and practiced and tried to make my voice more gravelly and more harsh as you go on.
Do you succumb to smoking and drinking to get that special effect?
Did smoke for a time, off and on. Smoking is bad, no matter what, whether you're a singer or not.
Everyone sing in the band?
No, it's better for the world that I don't.
It's not a good karaoke night for sure.
On the record, yes, but
Okay, live? Not
yet. Until we get a machine that does it for them. I will say, live and recorded are different. Recording, we double a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of times we'll add a harmony that's completely unnecessary, but it sounds cool. I mean, I'll put the
I know what you
yeah, like Waterburns, they added like 7 guitar tracks. That's stuff that's added in the recording to make a product.
The challenge for playing for a guy like him is that you get this product and like learn it and you're like, how on earth am I going to do all of this?